After the Israelites were delivered from Egypt and were journeying to the Promised Land, they lived very nomadically. I imagine they drove their tent pegs into the ground only as deep as was absolutely necessary, because when they stopped somewhere to set up camp, they had no idea if they would be staying for an entire year or only a single night. Literally. They were following a cloud, the cloud of Yahweh's presence. When the cloud moved, they moved. When the cloud halted, they halted. At the Lord's command, they encamped, and at the Lord's command, they set out. That was their lifestyle for a long time. Can you imagine? In a day and age long before instant pop-up tents or ready-to-go on a moment's notice RVs, God's people were constantly setting up camp and tearing it down again. As someone who grew up camping at state parks as summer vacations and had a mom who packed everything but the kitchen sink, I can't imagine how exhausting and unpleasant this lifestyle would have been. The tribe of Levi had it worst of all, for they were the ones tasked with, very carefully lest they die in the process, transporting God's sacred tent and the holy objects used to worship him. I think the worst factor of all during Israel's years of following the cloud would have been the unknown time variable in the equation. Yahweh spoke to Israel through Moses, so when the cloud came to rest, why couldn't Yahweh simply inform Moses as to the duration of the stop? Was that too much to ask? Would it have been too difficult for the omnipotent, omniscient God to simply let his people know approximately when they would disembark again? Or was God leaving the Israelites in the unknown in order to teach them something vitally important? If Israel wanted to safely arrive in the Promised Land, to their earthly home, then they needed to follow God. He would divinely guide them through desert wastelands, safely navigate them through enemy territory, and sovereignly provide everything they needed for survival during the journey. But Israel wouldn't have the comfort of a map marked with red dotted lines showing them the path to their destination, or a revealed itinerary of how long God intended for them to stay at each respite along the way. The journey was going to be long and arduous, fraught with danger and filled with questions, and they would have but one decision to make. Would they persist in following the cloud, no matter what? God was testing Israel's trust and obedience. Every one of us faces a similar test in our lifetime. God has promised us a home, the true and eternal home for which we were created. However, there is only one route that will safely get us there, and only He knows it. Will we make the all-important decision to follow Him? The journey may take another 50 years, or it may end tonight. It may be a relatively pleasant stroll through the park, or it may be a painful climb up a jagged mountain pass. It may be sunny and clear with the cloud easy to track, or it may be dark and foggy with only a faint silhouette to discern. Inevitably, there will be times along the way when the temptation is to stop following the cloud. Maybe because you feel like it is too hard to see and has abandoned you, or because it has been motionless for so long that you doubt it was ever leading you anywhere in the first place. But if you patiently, persistently follow the cloud, you will one day arrive at and walk through the unsealed gates of paradise, of Eden, of that garden in the east, of God's presence, of home.